Yeah, all right. We're back. We're live for another podcast of Hold That Settings game week number 5. With the Champions League now here, obviously both of our teams is non-existent in the Champions League. I don't class the Europa League as anything special, so I'm not talking about Europe for my team. That if we're not in the CL, then I don't really care. So yeah, let's move on to bigger and better things. Obviously, it's your boy Luke. We won our game. Unfortunately for Marjube, they drew, but we're gonna get into that anyway. Marjube, as always, introduce yourself.
Yeah, man, it's Abdallah Uni in the building. Another game and more drop points, but to be honest, I knew it was gonna happen. And yeah, man, I think my prediction's gonna come true this season. I don't think we're getting top six, but we'll talk about that and more.
Yeah. We'll definitely go into it. You know what? Let's not waste no time, and let's crack on. So, obviously, first game that we can discuss is obviously Liverpool versus Wolves. Obviously, Liverpool was away from home, and we eventually ran off as comfortable winners in the second half. Obviously, the first half we were terrible. Um, I said this in the last podcast, and I'll continue to say this. McAllister in the six doesn't make sense. And it was obvious that it doesn't make sense because Wolves was just skinning us, running through us through midfield. You know, he lost the ball numerous of times. He wasn't tidy in possession. He was overrun, and it just it doesn't make sense. Like you signed a six. Granted, he wasn't. He's not like the best six out there, but you still signed one. He's proven that he can do the job because he did it against Germany on international stages. But it just seems to me like you're not willing to put him in there. And if that's the case, then stop playing McAllister in there. Play a double two pivot of a McAllister and Slobosly, with McAllister being that deep line playmaker and Slobosly running from deep, and maybe have someone in the number 10 role, or even have Slobosly in the number 10 role, have Endo sitting deep and having McAllister be that ball carrier from midfield. But I don't know, be seeing McAllister there. And if Jurgen Klopp didn't make that tactical tweak in the second half, I don't even think we would have came away with the win. Because at the end of the day, the first half we were getting bossed. We were. It's the flat out truth. We were getting dominated. Gomez was getting skinned at right back. And if that Brazilian striker Kuhnhan, however you say his name, if he didn't bury that sitter of a header, then I wouldn't be sitting here saying, I'm happy that our team came away with the 3 points, because it was at that moment where that's where Wolves fucked up. They didn't take their chances when they were on top. And obviously, we always say this all the time in a podcast: if you do not take your chances, a team that has the quality will bury them when they get the chance. And that's what happened. The tactical switch happened. Jurgen Klopp used his brain. He made those tactical changes. He took McAllister off. He told Slobosly to play in the sixth role and run the show from deep, and that's exactly what happened. He bossed it from midfield again. It was another man of the match performance from Slobosly. Obviously, Salah's obviously going to get the plaudits with the hat trick of assists, but it was him who led the line well. And the substitutions from bringing Darwin Nunes on, he caused problems when he came on. Harvey Elliott, the surprise package, he caused problems when he came on, and everyone just knew their job. And it just goes to show you that when you're playing players in the right position, Liverpool is going to do business. And for me, there's no doubt in my mind that the top four is a guarantee. No doubt in my mind. But all this talk of Liverpool challenging Man City, like, everyone needs to relax and calm down. It's not happening, because at the end of the day, as I said, if those substitutions weren't made, if those tweaks didn't happen, we wouldn't have come away with those 3 points. And if Kuhan had scored that goal that he should have, we would be taking that L away from home. So for me, it's just the small things that matters, and sometimes Pep Guardiola is the master at that. It's the small, minute detail in when you're at the top. you remain at the top because of the smart decision makings that you're making. And again, if Jurgen Klopp fails to realize that, then that challenge against Man City is just going to end up being a one horse race again. But I sit here happy. I'm not complaining. We came away with 3 points. I know top four is a guaranteed, but harder matches is coming around the corner now. West Ham, Tottenham, big matches are coming. So, I'm just happy to be sitting comfortably in third. What was your thoughts, Marju, though? Did you watch the game? Do you agree? Like, what's your thoughts?
Um, I think it was a game of two halves. Mainly the first half Wolves were dominant. But the main thing that we have to think about McAllister is he was in Bolivia, which is a place that has high altitude. And when you're playing that kind of game, it's not very wise after an international break where you're going to Bolivia and places like that to bring him in straight away at the six at the most important position. So that first half was down to Klopp not utilizing the right players in the right positions. It led to Wolves scoring an early goal with Hangui Chan and pretty much dominating the first half. I think they could have got a couple more goals in. And on another day, Liverpool would have lost this game just because of the tactical ineptitude of Klopp in the first half. But the one thing Liverpool has that most teams don't is that they have elite level worth talent on the bench to change a game just in an instant. And that's what really happened in that second half. You brought in elite attackers. Um, they they made a difference. Salah with a hat trick of assists in a sense. I think he got a hat trick of assists, but he's got some
Did, yeah.
assists, and yeah, he's showing a different him and the other attackers around him, bringing in them in and after half time. It showed a different level of what Liverpool are capable of in the attacking third. Because defensively, we know it was going to be a problem. When I first saw the team line up and I saw Ice Spice on right back, I was like, yeah, no, long day for him. Any left wing, they're licking their lips at that. And that's what happened. Hang Wee Chan had the time of his life down the left side, and you saw that most of the issues were coming down the Joe Gomez side. But that's the other issue with Liverpool that will stop them from challenging over the course of the season. They'll finish second comfortably, in my opinion, because I think they're the best of the rest. But but another position that I never realized that they never actually covered was a backup right back. That's a mistake for me. Like, if Trent is not available, you can't put Joe Gomez there. He's not good enough to play that position, especially if you're gonna come up against elite teams later down the line, or if you're in a big game and let's say Trent is out. You can't have Joe Gomez at right back. And that's another position where I think that Liverpool didn't have the foresight. And I've always thought about that outside of Trent, they've never really brought a backup. On the left side, you have Simicast, who may not be on the level of Robertson, but is good enough to just play the role when he needs to. But on the right side, you don't. And you saw that. If this was any better team going forward, that could have been 4-5-0 by halftime, and it would have been, and we would be talking about Liverpool getting humiliated, um, Klopp making mistakes and stuff. McAllister shouldn't have started. No Argentinian player should be playing last weekend because let's be honest, anytime those South Americans go on tour, just know when they come back, they're out of action. Then none of them played well. Not you can name me not one South American player this weekend that played well. And yeah, I think Liverpool are the best of the rest. They're not going to compete with City just because City are of an elite level, and with that that they have now, they've got a new dimension. They've got a PMP winger now, so that's a different problem that you got to deal with. But yeah, I truly believe you'll finish second this season. I think you're the only team that can compete with Man City because you have this an elite level manager and the squad to do it. But it takes some signings in January that needs to happen. And I think the three signings that need to happen in January is a backup right back. So if Trent does get injured again, you have someone that you can rely on, not Ice Spice. A DM, either starting or a backup, depending on what you want. because Endo's just not good enough, and McAllister can't play that position on a weekly basis. And the last thing you probably need is a centre back because you have four great centre backs. Well, two great centre backs, two okay centre backs. You need that in between kind of guy. I think Matip's getting past it now. Joe Gomez is here and there. I'm not going to blame him for last weekend because he's playing out of position. And I know from first hand when a centre back's playing on as a wing back, it does not work. So I'm not going to blame him for last weekend, but he looks to get back to his form. But you need a fourth centre back. You need another centre back that can play on that left side, that can provide a challenge to Van Dijk and Konate and say, okay, I'm here. I want that position and to elevate the levels because that's what big teams need to do. They need to continue to add in each position just to elevate the levels. And I think in that centre back area, there needs to be an elevation. There needs to be an update. You've had the same four for too long. You need someone new to freshen it up. That young you that Jarrell Kwanzaa looked good, but I don't know. Maybe you think he's good enough to be that fifth guy, that guy that comes in and shows up here and there. But who knows? But maybe you need a more proven talent. But we'll see what happens over the course of the first half of the season. That might be a position that's already filled by that guy, but we'll see. Sometimes youth works. But yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, yeah, I think that that guy, I think I don't think he's good enough to start, but I think he's good enough to be called upon. I think since he's played, I don't think he's had a put a foot wrong. I think for his age, I think he's quite assured.
Mm.
And I just he just reminds me of a young Gomez when coming in. He was quite raw, but he was able to dominate. He's good in the air. He's quick from a positional point of view, he was quite good in that game as well. So I think, yeah, the time's on his side for him to develop, but I think it's probably too soon to put too much expectation on him. I think if we were to sign another centre back, it might stunt his development, but at the same time, I do believe Joel Matip will be leaving at the end of this season, so I think it opens up the door for us to sign someone anyway. But yeah, I agree, man. I think those three positions should be something that we should be looking at come January. I probably ain't too worried about right back, but I think centre back most definitely. Considering we have injury prone centre backs at the moment, I think we need someone that's quite durable and someone that's going to be dependable as well. So I think January 100% is probably a centre back position is probably where we should be looking at in terms of kicking on for the remainder of the season because we already know that this league is games are coming thick and fast. So yes, I do agree with you on that for sure. Um, I want to know what your thoughts are for the next game, man. It was banter galore. We've been sending memes to each other left, right, and center. Alan's been quiet. He ain't been saying anything. He's been silent in these streets, fam. What the smoke. But I want to hear your thoughts on the next game before I say my piece. What was your thoughts? I know you got plenty to say about United versus Brighton.
Well, I wasn't expecting to get to this game, but we'll get to my game later. But in terms of United Brighton, when I look at United, the issues that they've had in the right wing position has been one side of it is out of their hands. That's a situation that you're never expecting a player to go through. It's happened twice. So, in terms of that, as a level-headed fan, I'm gonna say, okay, cool. On those two players, that they can play ball out together in Getafe and live their La Vida Loca life in Spain. That's calm. But I'm gonna lie, I was hearing rumors that Ten Hag's used to this because of that guy from Ajax. What's his name? the Donny from Ajax, Quincy Promise, fam. It's not his first
Oh
rodeo with right
no.
with wingers that do that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, it's true. It's
Ten
actually
Hag,
true.
we're watching out for you. We're watching out for your next winger because it might be the same thing. But yeah, they played this kind of diamond formation, and to be honest, Ten Hag, you ain't Ancelotti, baby. Like Ancelotti does that thing over. That's his bread and butter. But yeah, it just didn't work. It kind of was like I don't know. I feel like because of the recruitment was basically Ten Hag and his knowledge of Eredivisie and those kind of players, I don't think the team gels together in a way that it should. Obviously, they're missing a couple players. No Mount, Amrabat hasn't really played yet, and the defense was here or there. But it's kind of like no Varane, right? No Varane. So okay, you have a few missing players, but to change up the formation like that, just all of a sudden, doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather use the youngster. What's his name? Forgot his name.
Who Palestri?
Not is it Palestri? No, Garnacho. Garnacho on the wing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because like, give him the chance. Stick to your natural formation. Put Garnacho on the wing and just let him have the game. Because the reality is, with this current situation, is that you've lost the dressing room. Uh, the fact that a player sent out a whole message, didn't, and then went, and then the rumors are he didn't apologize for it. That means there's other players that agree with him. Because if that was a close knit dressing room and the manager was in control of that, he would have apologized. He wouldn't even have put up that message. It would have been a whole different situation. But you have a bunch of players that are now putting out stories about fights and stuff like that, getting more stories than everything. You're looking at a team that isn't cohesive, has a lot of outfield problems, has a manager that is losing control, and it's just it's because glazers are a cancer that infect everything and anything. Anything good that that club gets in is being affected by the glazers, and you can see it. There's no style of play. There's no kind of. It's kind of like a mismatch of five different managers of players. Um, Most of these guys, when you're a footballer, you know which guys are good. You know which guys are bad. You know when things are going right and wrong. You're human, right? You know, and when you look at your defense and you see Serge Reguilon and Diego Dallo as your right back, left back, and they're your best players on on that game, and them man are bums, them man are scrubby right back, left back, and they were your best players. You're looking at this Hoyland who's barely played any games coming in, and you look at the team and you think the major issue is a DOF, and I'm gonna say it every day of every year for the rest of my life until they get one. They need a director of football that provides a mandate for a type of football, has a kind of liaison with Ten Hag and recruits guys that fit his system. Because the reality is, United right now is what Liverpool could be if Jurgen Klopp was in charge of every transfer that they had. When he first came in, he wanted to bring in all his Dortmund man, and they were like, no, no, no. We got this guy called Mane. We got this guy called Salah. Here you go. Magic happened. Premier League, Champions League, won everything. Anything you can win in the course of 2, 3 seasons, they did that. Right? Recruitment. Michael Edwards, DOF. You see Jurgen Klopp now, and some of his signings are okay, some of his signings are good, some of his signings are blah. You need a guy, a DOF, to put a stranglehold on your ideas of the manager and say, listen, I know you know Eredivisie, but there's this guy in Serie A doing bits. There's a guy in La Liga doing bits. There's a guy in our own league that we can bring in for a decent price and not get shafted, and he's doing bits. And have a recruitment system that allows for Ten Hag to play a style of football. Because I don't see Ajax style football. I don't know what they're trying to do. I look at the team, and I look at a team that's bare players that were bare money, but Brighton, who what their club was, what their squad was about 30, 40 million altogether or something ridiculous like
Yeah,
that.
16 million.
Yeah, and they're playing a style of football. They got a manager that, the thing is, a lot of people aren't going to say this, but Graham Potter started this movement with Brian, and he brought in the foundations. De Zerbi added onto it and and improved them in bits. So this foundation into the next manager, because they have a recruitment team, a philosophy, a way of what of the type of players they want to sign and the type of managers they want to sign. They have a system in where one manager to the next, it still goes on. If De Zerbi goes to Man United tomorrow, he's messing up. He's not gonna he's gonna fail like Graham Potter did at Chelsea, and then Brighton's gonna get some next no unknown manager, bring him in, and he's gonna be doing bits because they got this Colombian, Ecuadorian, Bolivian who's like 18 and and is a baller or whatnot, and they got him for 2p a packet of crisps and some chocolates or something like that, yeah, and a couple agent fees. But yeah, it's just if you told me that Brighton would be Man United bullies, beating them like 4 or 5 times in a row, dominated them throughout the game and just bopped it around the pitch and man, it's just like Man United ain't the is a shell of themselves. 10 years without a league, 5 years without really anything, and it's just I can't see it changing anytime soon because I don't see no glimmers of hope. I don't actually see any light at the end of the tunnel. And I see another manager that's going to be scapegoated by the board, let go, and it's just going to be the continued cycle of having players from about 6, 7 managers and trying to make a team with them. And that's why Jadon Sancho has the confidence to put out quotes and things like that because even if he's on the right or wrong, he knows the manager's gonna be gone soon, but I'm gonna still be around. you know, that's Harry Maguire knows the manager's gonna be gone, but man still got the United shirt paycheck. I'm making bank. I don't even have to play. Gareth Southgate's playing me for the national team. I don't even have to play for United. I could just be chilling on the bench like Phil Jones, fam. Like when you have players that are just there, just sitting there, and know that they can get away with this and that, and what's and there's no accountability within the squad. There's no players talking to each other. And sure, they've had fights, so they know that it's going wrong. But not everyone there is a fighter. Not everyone there cares as much. And you have a lot of players that aren't built to be in Man United. Not every it takes a certain type of mentality to be at Man United because you're going to be pressed every single day that if you don't win, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, they're going to be on your neck. You need the certain mentality to win at Man United because this it's not like being at a Brighton or a Newcastle or even at a Chelsea. We're not going to get the same limelight. Imagine a Mudrick failing at United. Man's gonna get so much hate. He's gonna be back home to Ukraine post haste, and they've got a war with it. He's like, you know what? I'd rather do the war thing than deal with what Man United players got to deal with. And I understand it, but like overall, I just man, it's sad to see, but at the same time, it's great because they ruined most of my childhood, fam. Man, seeing United win week in week out, dealing with United fans, and as far as I'm concerned, for these United fans that were throughout school, uni, all over London, even though you're supporting a Manchester club and you're from London, yeah, man, hold that, hold that to all United fans, because the reality is, if I'm down, I need someone with me too.
You're a
You know what
fool.
I mean? I'm out, but I'm leaving with something. I'm leaving with something.
Yeah,
But yeah,
no,
that's how
no,
I feel.
I do agree. Look, I say this countless of times. When a team is in a position where there's no way back, or you're in a position where you need someone to be a leader, they've put the captain's armband on the wrong person. Because throughout that whole
Facts.
game, you would look at your leader to step up and carry you through that game, knock heads together. Where was Bruno in that whole game? I say this every single time in every single pod about United that he is the wrong person to lead United. Throughout that whole game, he was non existent. And you know who was present that whole game? Is the person that I said who should be wearing an armband, which was Marcus Rashford. He was the only player in that game that was wearing a shirt and wanted to win. He wanted to score, and he could have scored that game. He was the only person trying to do something on that left hand side. He tried to link up well with Hoyland, which he did. There was a good little chemistry going there between them two, and it was working. Why Hoyland got subbed, I do not know because he actually was causing problems for Brighton in that game. But for me, the only bright and positive moments were between those two. And this is why I said Rashford should have got that armband because he knows United through and through. He's from the academy system. He bleeds red and he understands the pain of what the fans are going through. And you need someone like that. That's why you had the likes of Steven Gerrard, man, being a captain of Liverpool, understanding the scouts, understanding Liverpool, the city, and would tell these guys to bleed for the shirt. Same for Lampard and John Terry. Lampard obviously isn't from Chelsea and didn't come up through the academy, but he still understood Chelsea through and through. And for me, throughout that whole game, fingers need to be pointed not at the manager. Fingers needs to be pointed at the players and at Bruno because we've seen through managers with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, freestyle football, Jose Mourinho, David Moyes, Ralph Ragnick, now Eric Ten Hag. You've seen managers come and go, but the same players who've let those managers down are still there. So who is the problem? The problem are the players. And if the Glazers had any sense and had any ambition to back and support the managers like Todd Bowley did at Chelsea, get rid of all those players, even if it means ripping up their contract. At least their wages is off your books and you still got the peas for you to go out and spend more money. But that's the problem is as Margie rightfully said that you've got numerous players under different managers that's come in and you're getting them to try buy into your ethos, but they probably have a grudge because their manager's gone. So they're not going to want to listen to you. That whole game was such a bullying and domination from Brighton. Brighton didn't even need to do much, especially the last two goals that they scored. It was rinse and repeat. From the left hand side, cut in, Pascal Kroos didn't need to do much. He just dropped his shoulder. Martinez went flying, boom, one goal. And then after that, the last goal was the same exact replica. Ball from Tariq Lamptey into, I don't know how you say my man's name, but a one touch, boom, it was a goal. The fact that Danny Welbeck scored against you should tell you how bad United is. Because if he's scoring, you know it's bad. That whole game was shocking. Absolutely shocking. Their defense was nowhere to be seen. Their midfield was ran through. Wow. If I was a United fan, I don't even know whether I would leave and join the guys that did leave or just stay and just be amazed at what I'm seeing. To see my team fall from grace that badly, to be at home and let a team like Brighton school me off the pitch like that is mad. Is mad. They got dominated from start to finish. They couldn't even get hold of the ball in most occasions. You're playing a diamond system, and in order for a diamond system to work, you need to have legs. You need to have guys that's got legs and that's got the condition to be running up and down. That's why Angelotti did it so well. Clarence Seedorf was the engine room, was the durability, always running up and down. Gattuso was the hard man. You could always rely on him to have the condition to run up and down. Kaka had legs as well. Surprisingly, very underrated, but he had legs. The only person that was sitting was Perlo. He didn't need to run that much because he had the guys in front of him to run. Please, can someone tell me in that United midfield who has legs to run? Ericsson can't run because there's a fear of something happening again. He can't run. Casemiro at the moment is in the same situation Fabinho was at Liverpool before we sold him. He has no legs. None. Because Casemiro has had to babysit United's midfield in his debut season that he has no legs to run. Mason Mount has no technical ability. He runs like a headless chicken. He's like a Henderson 2.0, and Bruno don't run at all. So who is taking control of that midfield? We say it time and time again. Having a solid midfield wins games. That's why Man City is so dominant because their midfield always win them games. Always. Throughout that whole game, no one wanted to take ownership. No one wanted to lead. No one wanted to stand up and say, you know what? Why is United playing like this? We deserve better. It's shocking. Absolutely shocking. And yeah, Marju's right. As a rival fan, I'm happy to see this. But as a neutral, enough is enough now, man. I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of saying the same thing every single week about United. I am. At this point, I don't even want to talk about their games anymore because it's just rinse and repeat every single time. We know what the issue is. It's the owners. We know what the issue is. It's the players. We know what the issue is. The manager tactically doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't even know what his best team is. The coaching isn't even taking place on the training ground because it's not being implemented on the pitch. The captain is the wrong choice. The centre back pairing is not centre backs. The fullbacks can't even defend. The goalkeeper is a downgrade from David De Gea because 1v1 shot stopping, he's diabolical. From start to finish, from top to bottom, the team is a mess. And on top of that, they've got Nottingham Forest. No, they got Burnley next. Now, Burnley play fantastic football. And the problem that Burnley have is because they're so expansive with their football, it's high risk, sometimes no reward. Sometimes you have to respect teams that come up from the bottom and want to play football. They don't want to play that Sean Dyche, that Tony Pulis sit back and play on a counter attack like Luton, like Sheffield United. So I have to respect Vincent Company from doing it. And if it means he gets relegated, but at least he can be proud of sticking to his ethos, his principles, and playing from the back. You've just got beat by a team that knows how to play football. You are going to be in so much trouble if Burnley are able to put two passes together like they have been in games. Because if Burnley beat you, I'm sorry, Marju, I am not talking about this game. If Burnley beat United, I am not talking about the game. I'm not. Because we can already see the writing on the wall. We can already see what we're going to be saying. The most that I will say is banter this team, and that's it. But I know it's going to be rinse and repeat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, to be honest, they got bigger problems. They got Bayern on Wednesday, so
It's going to be an Arsenal problem, fam. See how when Arsenal was getting slapped by Bayern every year, they're going to be that's going to happen to them, fam. Did you see the meme where it said 20 20 uh 8 o'clock, but it was at 20 0 hours. Yeah,
yeah.
they were someone was saying, yeah, that someone's already predicted the scoreline as it is already.
Uh,
I can't
before we
wait.
move on, I wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
Two things actually. Two things. For the youngster Hannibal, that was a great goal, great finish. Um, and you know what? I commend that. You know, you showed passion, but man celebrated like you scored the winner. You're
Like
3
Dan
0
James,
down.
fam.
That's another problem. Like I was watching videos on it earlier, and certain people were saying that that's an issue, and United fans are like, no, man, he's a youngster. It's his first goal. That's the mentality you're going with. Oh, because it's his first goal, he has to celebrate like he scored the Champions League winner. You're down 3-0. What you need to do is get the ball and go again. That's the other problem. There is no mentality in that squad. And the reality is, if the youth them don't have mentality to feel like, oh, I need to pick up the ball and get the next goal, get the next goal. That's on the senior players and the leadership, and that adds to your point. Bruno isn't a leader. Harry Maguire wasn't a leader. There's only probably 2 or 3 guys in there that you could say are worthy of that badge, right? Varane and Casemiro, because they've been there, done that. Elite mentality monsters. And Rashford, because he's a United boy. He understands the club, etc., etc. No one else should be having the armband, and no one else should really have a say of what the club does. Because Bruno, all he does is whinge. All he does is wah, 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 every game. If that's your leader crying on the pitch, man. It reminds me of I don't know what show it was, but it was Evra and them, man, and they were talking about Nani rolling on the floor crying after
Oh
a
yeah.
tackle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're on about. I forgot
And they
what
were like
show it is though.
and they were like, "Oh, oh, I wish he was really. He better be really hurt because he was crying and that." And they started walking away. At first, they were arguing with ref. They look at Nani like he's crying. That was the mentality of Manchester United. The only reason you're on the floor is if you're dead. That's what was their mentality. They were winners. Now you're losers. And you know what? Speaking of losers, you go into the second team in the mud. My team. Bringing the big L in London on the west side. But we didn't lose. We drew this time. Away to Bournemouth. And the difference I would say between us and United is that I see a positive future for us. Because I see a recruitment plan. I see an ambition. I see an intention of what they want to do. And that's why I say this season we ain't finishing top 6, because it's by the time we get things right and our players come back from injury, we got 12 on the list. As they gradually come back, the players come back into position. I don't think we'll have enough time to make that charge to get top 6, to get top 7, to get into Europe, because it'll be too late. This was the easy period, and we're picking up 5 points in 5 games. The future games are looking rough out here. And the thing about Poch is he didn't help himself. In this game, he didn't help himself. He made right decisions and wrong decisions. And the main thing I got a problem with is Levi Colwell at left back doesn't make sense. Just like Joe Gomez at right back didn't make sense. You don't do that. You put players in their right positions and then you let them ball. And if they lose, they lose. If they win, they win. But the thing is, we don't need that many centre backs in our back. We're not that bad defensively. Our midfield structure made sense. The attack had some bits and pieces. And we were unfortunate. There was a couple opportunities where how did that free kick not go in? How did an offside here, a Levi Colwell miss there? But the reality is, we only had 10 to 15 chances. We should have had 30 because that game was open, wide open. And my biggest issue was, instead of thinking I want to win the game towards the end, he was thinking about keeping the point, keeping the draw. And that's not the mentality of a manager of Chelsea. And I need Poch. I need you to put on your big boy pants and understand, when you're at Chelsea, every day is a win. Every game is a win. If you ain't winning, you're losing. And that's the reality of what it is to be at Chelsea. And the thing about it, for me as well, is that because a certain things didn't make sense. Conor Gallagher is not a pivot player. Swap him and Enzo around, it makes more sense. Conor Gallagher is that kind of like the Harrier, the guy who just, starts off the press in that 10 role, has very little to do, but just, one pass here, one pass there. Because every time he gets the ball from the defenders, he doesn't know what to do with it. Enzo's meant to be your controller. Leslie Ugochukwu was great. He did his role well. As far as I'm concerned, one of the best players on the pitch, in my opinion. But yeah, the right side was good as always. We should have had some goals in this game, but the left side was unbalanced because Mudryk needs help. He needs a left back that can overlap, that understands the positioning of what it means to be a left back. If you want Mudryk to be at his best, he needs Chilwell alongside him to overlap and cause problems around the outside so he can cut inside and do his business, and vice versa. So they swap, and that's what happens because that's what most teams are going to be defensive towards us because we could still consider it a big team in terms of that. But the reason why I think this season we're not gonna get top four, top six, in my opinion, is because we're missing two pieces. We're missing two pieces in the attack, and I feel like we're missing two killers. I think we need a killer in left wing and we need a killer up front. Sterling needs two killers alongside him. Guys that are gonna give you goals and assists, guys that are gonna provide him with opportunities. Because I can understand that Sterling has the ability to get 10 to 15 goals, 10 to 15 assists when he's around attackers of likewise quality. Jackson and Mudryk in the future will be great, but for now, they need to be off the bench. I would rather see them off the bench coming as options off the bench so that when there's like last 30 minutes, they can run, they can work together, they can understand each other, and then over time be implemented as the main two on the left hand striker side. But in January, we need to buy Ivan Tony, and if I need and I need another winger. And if I was Chelsea, I would go to Bayern. I would offer them Trevor Chalobah and any money they want for Leroy Sane, and bring the boys back together again. Because I think like for me, we need a left winger that's a killer. We need Sterling to have an opposite side winger that provides a problem because with Sterling, he's going to get doubled up on, tripled up on because they know he's the main issue. But if you provide another issue on the left side, a killer down the middle like Ivan Tony, then you actually cause problems because then they have to think. The defense has to think, where do I have to go? Who do I have to kind of think? I've got three guys that can score and assist, and you don't see that with Chelsea at the moment. And that's the biggest issue is that we don't have that killer instinct. We play the perfect game up till the point of we needing to score. Everything is perfect up to that point. Unless that clicks for Mudryk and Jackson, or we bring in guys that can do it right now, I don't see that this season's going to be a good one. The future will be. I think next season will be a problem, but we're just missing two pieces because the defense and midfield will get better over time. We've got a lot of guys coming back in those positions. We've got two cams out. We've got two free midfielders out. We've got two free centre backs and defenders out. So once everyone's back, you can see even with the starting 11 and the 12 players out, if you add those two together, that's a squad. That's a squad that can do bits. But we need killers. And that's the difference between us and a Liverpool, us and an Arsenal, us and a City. Because those squads have killers. Those have guys that can get you 15 to 20 goals each. Arsenal, they got Saka. Martinelli, unfortunately, got an injured. They got Gabriel Jesus who can provide. Liverpool, Salah. Nunes, if he gets the right form. You look at Diaz, Jota, killers. You look at Man City. Doku's already shown he's a killer. Haaland, I don't even need to say anything. And you're looking at around a team that just knows how to win. And that's the thing that we need to learn. We need that killer instinct in the final third, and we either need to buy it or we need to do more work in the training ground to put it in, instill it into our team because we're like sharks that smell the blood but don't go for the food. And that's what I look when I see my team and it's going to be the same week in week out. I'm going to be hearing the same story, and the thing is, the one thing I will say is that we won't concede a lot of goals, but our main issue last season, our main issue this season is getting goals. And if we can't rectify that problem, at January, I'm going to need to see a Ivan Tony and a winger signing. I'm going to need a left-sided guy and a striker to come in. Whatever money it takes, spend the bank. And the other thing, my other issue is, there's two guys that are going to need to move on. Chalobah as a centre back, we don't need him. He's just an extra body. He didn't even make the bench. Don't know why he's here. So move him on. And on the left back side, either Matson or Cucurella has to go. Either Matson signs a contract and stays, or Cucurella, or he doesn't sign the contract and goes, or Cucurella goes. Because we need to bring in two killers, those two positions out, and our squad will be fine. Because by the time January comes, you get your Nkunku's back, you get your Carney's back, you get your Casado Lavia back. You'll be able to have the squad that you need, and then Poch will be able to implement the starting 11 he wants because he'll have all the guys he needs just to meld them together. And then the second half of the season is just about having fun and making sure you win games and show signs of good fortune. Because that's why when you look at Liverpool now, the reason why they look good now is because towards the end of last season they went on a run and their midfield back then didn't even have legs and now they do. So that's the difference. It's kind of like we haven't got that run yet. I just need a run of positive performances with goals, with wins, clean sheets, and I haven't seen it yet. And it needs to happen sooner rather than later. Because unfortunately, we have impatient fans, but I think our fans need to understand this. We've won everything in my lifetime. We've won everything. So at this point right now, patience is the key. This is the Man City era. This is the Pep era. So as far as I'm concerned, get your popcorn, watch Man City win their things. Congrats to them. But we need to be around when Pep goes and to be there, right there. And we need to actually start implementing a style this season and start the building blocks for a team. But the banter thing is, you drop points with 14th. As long as we stay in the table with top 10, I don't really care for this season too much. It's just about providing the mandate of what our team could look like. And because of the amount of players that are out and certain things like that, and needing a couple tweaks here and there with the squad, I don't think we'll be great till the second half of the season. It'll be too late by then. And then for the future, who knows? We may be a problem. It is frustrating because the other thing, we look at Tottenham and Arsenal, the two North London clubs, and they're doing well. And Tottenham have a new manager, and they just seem to be rejuvenated, and that's frustrating in my mind. But that's the kind of thing where it's like just focus on your own club, really, and that's the mentality I'm gonna go in with it. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a long season, and yeah, there's not much else I can say about that.
Uh, I think for me, it's just going to be the same thing that I say all the time, really, about Chelsea. I'm tired of seeing fans calling for Pochettino. I'm tired of seeing fans talking about Chelsea spent 1 billion. Why are their players not doing well? Why is Poch not getting the best out of their players? I think people need to understand that Chelsea is a long-term project. With Poch in there, it's a long-term project. We're probably going to see the benefits of Chelsea spending probably in the next 3 years, and I think people need to understand that. Um, I feel like it would be more worrying if Chelsea's performances haven't been great in these 5 games, but every single game that Chelsea have played, there have been positive performances. You know, last week's game, Sunday's game was a good performance. Perspective of the football being played was brilliant. It was an open game, yes. The defense needed a bit of work, yes. And Bournemouth could have came away and snatched it, yes. But taking that outside of things, you're gonna get that in any game. You're gonna get that at an open game sometimes. If a big team doesn't have someone to take control of the midfield and be like, listen, sometimes we just need to be robust and just be compact and just ride it out for 5-10 minutes and then eventually ease yourself back into it, you know, then sometimes the game can go against you sometimes. But with that being said, for me, I just feel like, again, when watching that game, Sterling was a real highlight in that game. You know, he was leading the line well. Every single attack was flowing through him. He wanted to score. He wanted to assist. Every time when he had the ball, he was looking up for Jackson Martinez. And I keep saying Jackson Martinez, Nicholas Jackson. And for me, I just feel like when you're watching the Chelsea game, you know that the movement is there, and you see Jackson every time trying to make that movement. But I just feel like the communication isn't there to make that pass, because every time when you're watching Chelsea play and they get to the final third, they either hold on the ball for too long, over dribble, or they make an extra pass when they don't need to make an extra pass, and that just goes down to communication. And I think the more that they play with each other consistently on the training ground, then eventually everything will make sense in that final third. I just think sometimes they're probably overthinking it too much, because they know that the issue is that they're lacking in goals. So they're trying to overdo it. They're trying to overwork or trying to force it. But I think if they're patient, then the goal will come. And I just feel like, as I say every single time about Chelsea, for me, in my eyes, there's nothing wrong in how Chelsea are playing, and there's nothing wrong in what they're doing in these games, because they're creating the opportunities, because the football's been good. And again, it just goes down to a lack of confidence with the current striker right now. I said this before and I'll say this again. He's played in a foreign league for most of his life. He's a young kid. You can't expect someone like that to adapt straight away, because not everybody can do it. Suarez did it, Fernando Torres did it. You know, they're just different pedigree of guys, but not Sergio Aguero done it. But sometimes Thierry Henry's done it. You know, those are foreigners, but you can't expect every single foreigner to step into the Premier League and expect them to hit the ground running straight away. It just doesn't work like that. And I just think time needs to be on Jackson's side. I think patience needs to be on his side. And I think people just need to leave him alone, ease off it, be more encouraging, because he's getting into those positions. I said this in the last pod. He's just like Darwin Nunes, raw. You know, Darwin Nunes always got into the right positions. His movement was always immaculate, but when it came to the finish, he was raw. He couldn't shoot with his left foot. Sometimes he would overthink it and take an extra touch. And the same thing is happening with Jackson right now. And I just think, provided Pochettino and Chelsea ride this wave for the next 3 months and try pick up points here and there to try and get above the top 10, because in the position that they're in, they should not be there. But if they can get in the top 10 and build on that till when January comes, and then they purchase a more prominent, prolific striker like an Ivan Tony that Margie keeps saying, then they will get to where they should be, because again, everything is right. Everything makes sense with this team. It's just the finish that is just lacking. The defense will work itself out once a couple of players return back to where they should be. And the midfield again will make sense once Caicedo finds his foot. Once Lavia returns from injury, as well as Caicedo. You know, when these guys return back, then they'll have a more key cog and stronger midfield. Um, but I just think, as I said, for now, ride the wave, and once that wave is ridden for the 3 months, then January go again and kick on from January. But for me, as I said, this is a long term project, and I just think people need to stop, getting on their high horse and saying "poch out," and stop being so fickle. It's a fickle era with the with social media and with the modern day fans, and I just feel like people need to bring common sense into this situation and not expect too much from a team that's very young, and off a manager at the moment who's having to utilize players that he probably doesn't want to, because his main bulk is injured. But also at the same time, they're a very young team, so he needs to try and get them to find form and get them to listen to his way of playing. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, you know. So again, it will happen. Chelsea will get back to their best. Again, it will take probably max 3 years, but I think for now, As Margie said, just be patient because their time will come. Uh, they probably just need to wait till when the injured players return. And as I said, just ride the wave until the January window. I know people are going to say, yeah, but they spent already, but that's not necessarily the point. Although they spent it, most of the expenditures have been to recoup the losses that they've lost in the summer, but also build for the bench as well, because the bench is the most important key thing when needing to change the game. I think now that they've got that solid base, I think now they can focus on the key areas, which is, as Margie rightfully said, striker, an experienced striker that knows the prem, and a left-sided player, because the right side's already um solidified as it is already. But we're approaching that hour mark, so we're gonna finish on that note. Margie, do you have anything else to add? Because yeah, that's me on that Chelsea game, in my opinion.
Um, no, nothing else. I think it's just patience. I think because people are so used to the Roman era where it was, oh, if you ain't winning after 6, 7 games, the manager's gone like that. It's a new ownership group. It's a new style. Like most of the players were under 23s, and most of the money we've spent, half of it is injured right now. The midfield that we bought in injured, the defense injured. So it's an unfortunate run of its circumstances for Pochettino, and I think over time he'll work out because I think this is the type of squad that he loves, and it takes him a while to get the team up to speed. But as soon as players come back, the likes of Nkunku, Carney, the guys that are going to make the main team and the bench, and once we fill that out, because if you looked at the bench on the weekend, we had two goalkeepers, which is when does that happen? We had a couple of youngsters that I don't even know who they were, and in order for us to change the game, we were bringing on Ian Matson. I mean, come on, like no attacking players in that bench to change the game to add an extra bit of flair because most of them are on the sideline. So I just think it's just about patience, about time, and yeah, I think that's the main thing. But I don't think it's a similar situation to United where they've got bigger problems than everything else. And but I would also like to say congratulations to Arsenal and City for winning their games. I mean, they do what they do, and yeah, I would like to add this. A lot of the fans that are making fun and jokes are Arsenal fans, and I need you to win a Champions League or Premier League this season. It's about time. It's been 20 years. You need to stop talking and start winning. And that's all I got to say about that.
Well, on that note, we out, people. Peace.
Yeah, that's right. Win something. Don't be Tottenham.